Hello everybody, my name's Helen Gray and I'm the clerk for the Joint Committee. As the very first item of business, the committee elected Councillor James Lewis to chair the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. I won't give a long speech about the honour of chairing this meeting. I'll just move on to the agenda. And item 1, are there any appeals against the refusal of inspection of documents, please?
Thank you, Chair. No, there's no appeals. Would you like me to run through 1 to 5?
Yes, please.
So there's no appeals at item 1. Item 2, there's no exempt information. Item 3, we have no late items. Item 4, would members like to make any declarations of interest they may have? I can't see any, thank you. Item number 5, apologies for absence. We've received apologies for absence from Councillor Scullion and Councillor Dacre is here, and we've received apologies from Councillor Patterson and Councillor Graham Turner is here as substitute. We also have apologies from Steve Mawson, Kevin Mulvaney, Robin Tuddenham, Victoria Bradshaw, Tony Reeves and Ian Floyd. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll move on to item 5 and see if any members of the committee want to declare any interests. I don't see anybody, so I'll move on to item 6, which is minutes of the previous meeting. Is everybody happy with the meeting we held on the 6th of September? Take it everybody is. Are there any matters arising from the minutes that anybody wants to raise? I don't see any, thank you. So we'll move on to item 8, which is a substantive item today. Who's going to introduce? Are you going to introduce it, Richard? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the 24-25 business rate pool was designated by the government from the 1st of April 24 under the 50% business retention scheme. And as members are aware, the advantage of forming a business rate pool in this situation is for the retention and levy payments within the region that otherwise would have been paid to government. Section 2 within the report on page 10 just details members of the Leeds City Region business rates pool, and in terms of the governance arrangements, it's led by this joint committee, which is comprised of all leaders of the member authorities or their nominated representatives. It's also governed by the memorandum of understanding for the region pool, and there's also terms of reference as well, which remain unchanged from 23-24 and were approved by this committee on the 28th of July 2023. The Memorandum of Understanding also states, in terms of the pooled levy payments, how they will be paid out to member authorities. So the first call is on the running cost of the pool, and that's paid to Leeds City Council from the net retained levy. After that payment, the first 200,000 of any net retained levy is payable to the City of York Council. After those two payments, the residual benefit of the pool is returned to all member authorities using the following agreed apportionments. So 25% is in proportion to growth above the baseline, 25% is in proportion to individual populations of member authorities, 25% to the 4 top-up authorities, and 25% in proportion to the levy payments made to the pool. Turning our attention to the pooled income for 24-25, when we applied to have a city region pool for 24-25 in October 23, it was estimated that the retained income would be about £3.4 million. If you turn to table 1 on page 12, this shows that in terms of the position at January 24, it was estimated to be 3.65 million. In June, it was estimated at 3.7, and now the latest projection, based on the position received from the individual member authorities, is projected to be £3.1 million, with the prior year adjustments within York City Council largely due to appeals against rateable values, and that explains why the York contribution has reduced from 2.4 circa to about 1.5. Section 5 just picks up some of the sort of key risks to pooled funding. There's a continued risk to the economy, particularly around sort of ongoing cost of living crisis, and also the impact that has in terms of business rates income and the associated income streams, so there's a risk in terms of growth, empty rate relief, and costs relating to bad debt and backdated appeals. Also, by having the pooled arrangement, there remains a risk that if an authority falls into the safety net, is that the loss of income should be met by the retained levies from the other authorities, and if there's not sufficient in them, then it will be a cost to individual authorities to make up the difference in proportion to the baseline funding. In terms of that risk, if you turn to Table 2, it just sets out there just where each individual local authority is against their safety net, and particularly the final column. It shows the reduction in business rates income possible before the threshold for individual authorities is reached. So notwithstanding the risks we've got there, but the current forecast is that while some authorities are significantly closer to the safety net threshold than others, no authority is currently forecast to breach the threshold with any resultant loss of income from the government to the region. In terms of the allocation of the 24-25 business rates pool, if you turn to page 14, Table 3, it just shows the allocation of resources to individual authorities. So taking the latest forecast, which shows it's projected up £3.1 million. It shows in terms of the pool administration fee to Leeds City Council, there's the York top slice of 200,000, and then the residual 2.854 is distributed to each of the local authorities in accordance with the Memorandum of Understanding with regard to how the retained levy payments should be distributed. In terms of 25-26, in September last year, the government contacted all authorities to invite them whether they want to have a pooled arrangement for 25-26. The Leeds City Council region business rates pool, we applied for that, but with just one slight change, as previously agreed in the Memorandum of Understanding, which removed the £200,000 payment to the City of York prior to the distribution to other member authorities. On the 18th of December, in the Provisional Local Government Finance Report, the Secretary of State designated the pool for 25-26. Member authorities had 28 days to withdraw, and no member authority has withdrawn. So the continuation of the pool was confirmed in the final local government finance settlement of February 25. In January this year, each member authority produced forecasts for the 25-26 non-domestic rating income, and if you turn to Table 4 on page 15, it shows the estimated levy payments from Leeds and York at 4.126, and then you can see the allocation and distribution between individual authorities after taking account of the £50,000 pool administration fee due to Leeds City Council. In terms of delegation of authority to distribute funds from the 24-25 Leeds City Region business rates pool, if members remember, at the meeting of March 24, it was resolved that the Chief Officer Financial Services at Leeds City Council, in consultation with other Section 151 authorities, so 151 officers of member authorities, be given the delegated authority to distribute the surpluses of the 23-24 Leeds City Region business pool once she has reasonable assurance that the position is a true and fair representation. And that distribution will also be done on the understanding that should there be any variations in terms of final figures with regard to business rates income, that any over-allocation or under-allocation will be recouped or distributed should any subsequent changes occur. As part of one of the recommendations today, members are being asked to give the Interim Assistant Chief Executive, Finance, Trades and Resources at Leeds City Council, which is still the Section 151 officer, just a different title, in consultation with other Section 151 officers, the delegated authority to distribute the 24-25 surplus once she's received reasonable assurance that that's a true and fair view. And again, there remains a mechanism there. Should there be under or over allocations, once we have final figures, then they will need to be redistributed. And then finally, just looking ahead and horizon scanning with regard to the continuation of the pool for 26-27. The government have announced a number of reforms to be brought in for 26-27 that will impact on business rate baselines. These include implementation of the fair funding review, which impacts upon assessed spending needs, and also the business rates reset. And on top of that, we've got the routine business rates revaluation, which comes into effect in April 26, based on rateable values from April 24. Each of the reforms identified above and the revaluations will the potential to affect the financial viability of the pool for 26-27. So it's suggested that early discussions will be necessary and that there should be a joint committee meeting scheduled for early summer 25 just to review the risks before the application to renew the pool for 26-27 has to be made. Thank you, Chair. And those are the sort of key elements from the report. And obviously there's just the recommendations at the bottom of the report.
Thanks, Richard. Are there any questions or comments from people on Richard's presentation and the report? As I don't see any hands going up, I'm going to move straight to the recommendations on the last page. And I take it everybody here who is able to vote is supportive of those recommendations. I see lots of nodding heads. That's great, thank you. So we'll agree those recommendations and I'll close the meeting.